Okay, so we entered a German supermarket and there's something very interesting to see. So, of course, you can see cola. And here, more cola. Of course, you can see cola here. Check it out. Coca-Cola. Oh, have I mentioned the cola here? Oh yeah, of course, you can see cola here. It's fresh and cold. Oh, but wait, what's that? Another cola brand, huh? Look at this. So today we are diving into the fizzy and fabulous world of Coca-Cola. But wait, we are not talking about the ubiquitous Coca-Cola or the ever-present Pepsi. No. We are shining a spotlight on the plungy underdog from Germany, Fritz Cola. Now why should you care about this David and Goliath story? Because Fritz Cola didn't just set out to make a beverage, they set out to disrupt an industry, and in doing so, they taught us some invaluable lessons about branding, innovation, and the sheer audacity it takes to go up against a giant. So buckle up and grab your favorite drink, preferably a Fritz Cola if you can find one, because we are about to explore how a couple of students from Hamburg managed to shake up the cola world.
Deal, but I think it's a very clever product.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it like an 8.8 out of 10. Fritz Cola, ohne Zucker, very, very good.
But first, let's establish that the world wasn't exactly holding its breath for their product. In fact, it was quite the opposite. The world was ready to crush newcomers. Back in 2003, Coca-Cola had a staggering 16% market share in the DACH region. Their cola ranked in an estimated 4.4 billion in revenue adjusted for inflation. Coca-Cola even claimed they made around a 60% profit margin on each cola sold. 16%! To put that in perspective, the most profitable car manufacturer, Mercedes, only achieves about a 13% margin per vehicle. In other words, there was a lot of money to be made here. And giant companies like Coca-Cola don't just sit back and let their market share slip away. They are fiercely defending it. Thanks to their massive market penetration, Coca-Cola can negotiate exclusive supply contracts with the hospitality industry. Many restaurants, for example, were only allowed to offer Coca-Cola products, and in return, they receive discounts to boost their own profits. This made it incredibly difficult for these businesses to introduce another cola brand that might not sell as well or offer the same profit margin. Coca-Cola was a household name, a drink people naturally reached for. These forces of market dominance are known as modes, and they are vital for sustaining a monopoly. So these two founders were up against a market that was completely locked down. Not to mention Coca-Cola's 2.6 billion global marketing budget. All they had was their friendship and a modest 7,000 euro in startup capital. So what do you do in a situation like that? The two founders set out with a bold ambition to create a cola that's better than anything the big corporations have to offer. Now sure, that sounds like a classical PR slogan, but entering an established market is much easier when you have a unique selling point. They managed to convince a brewery to produce their cola. The standout feature of their first Fritz Cola was its significantly higher caffeine content. With 25 milligrams of caffeine per 100 milliliter, it was much stronger than Coca-Cola.
The name and why it's important.
The name of a product is crucial to its success. The founders choose Fritz Cola because Fritz is a common first name in northern Germany. And to emphasize their distinctiveness, they spelled cola with a K, which also added to the brand's local authenticity as the letter K was more commonly used to translate English words in Eastern Germany instead of the C. Fritz Cola sounded simple, friendly and regional. The choice of name was a stroke of genius, as market research studies show that simple names are preceded more quickly by the brain and thus tend to be more trusted. Moreover, studies by Lurie and Schroon indicated that the sound of name can influence perceptions of product attributes. Given that Fritz was a common first name, it's likely that many people had a friend named Fritz. This positive, familiar association would then be effectively transferred to the Fritz Cola brand. So we have the product and the name. Now we need the price and the buyers. With their highly caffeine cola and a friendly familiar name, they aimed to make their cola a drink of choice at student parties, helping people stay awake longer to experience more. Their target audience was young people, students, musicians, creatives. I think you get the gist. As market challengers, this was a smart group to focus on, because young people, especially those aged 18 to 29, are in a phase of self-discovery. They experiment with different lifestyles and values, making them more open to trying new brands and possibly sticking with them for life. Additionally, they were ahead of the curve and focusing on more sustainable and natural ingredients, something that typically resonates well with younger people. Despite targeting a younger and therefore less affluent demographic, they priced their cola about 30 cents higher than Coca-Cola. This is unusual for market newcomers, as many companies try to win customer over with lower prices. Solomon's research in 2018 explored how consumer products contribute to identity formation and how specific target groups are willing to pay more if the product reflects their identity and values. By buying Fritz Cola, you were also buying into a desired identity, signaling your membership in the hip urban scene. Moreover, the higher prices allowed them to adjust margins for intermediaries, strategically bypassing the massive price advantage that Coca-Cola enjoyed. So this positioning was crucial for the product's success. But at the end of the day, people actually need to buy it. Even the most brilliant strategy won't matter if the product doesn't sell. So how did Fritz Cola make its way into people's head? The romantic startup phase in the early days. The founders took on distributions themselves. They personally drove to bars, clubs and small shops to pitch their cola. They relied on word of mouth and targeted marketing within the trendy underground scene. They visited the coolest clubs and bars in the big cities, pitching the drinks in person. And their concept was accepted, despite the fact that selling Coca-Cola likely offered more immediate profit for the hospitality industry and despite the risks involved. So what made it all work? I believe it's because the elements of their strategy fit together seamlessly. Let's dive into branding archetypes to understand this better. Branding archetypes are universal, recognizable characters or personalities used in brand strategies to define and communicate a brand's identity and image. These archetypes are rooted in concepts from psychology, particularly the work of Carl Gustav Jung, who developed the idea that within the collective unconscious of humanity there are certain universal archetypes that reoccur in myths, stories and symbols across the world. Archetypes help brands forge deeper emotional connections with customers through universal values. They create a clear, consistent personality that remains recognizable across different channels and set the brand apart from competitors. This not only boosts recognitions, but also strengthens brand loyalty. Fritz Cola was positioned as an alternative to the big, established cola brands like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. The brand deliberately aimed to be different, distancing itself from mass production and the mainstream values of the large corporations. Take a look at this poster. Here we can clearly see Fritz Cola embodying the rebel archetype. The rebel archetype represents brands that challenge the established and see themselves as a counterpoint to the dominant players in the market. The rebel loves breaking rules and doing things differently. It resonates well with people who want to stand out from the crowd and follow their own path. The rebel archetype often has a strong sense of justice and fights for changes that aim to make the world a better place. This archetype attracts followers who share the brand values and are proud to be part of this movement. So how was Fritz Cola's business evolved over the years? In short, yeah, especially well. By 2022, the company was generating around 27 million in revenue, according to Statista. They've gradually expanded their product range and are now focusing on making bigger impacts in the European market. However, since local authenticity was a key selling point in Germany, it remains to be seen how effectively they can adapt their messaging as they expand. While Fritz Cola isn't a behemoth like Coca-Cola, with its 45 billion in revenue, they've carved out a profitable and well-established brand. Remarkably, they've managed to snatch 5% of the market share from one of the largest corporations in history, all thanks to consistent branding and marketing that truly understands their audience. So what can we learn from Fritz Cola if we are looking to carve out our own niche? Few companies in this segment have managed to stand out as much with their communication. Fritz Cola knows its audience inside out. They articulated what many of their customers are thinking and want to feel. They stayed true to their brand essence and weren't afraid to speak with a distinct voice, rather than just rely on logos and sales figures. That's why young people talked about Fritz Cola. Too often, we are afraid to demand what we truly deserve. Fritz Cola confidently knew what their brand should stand for and didn't join the race to the bottom on price. We should do the same when we're trying to convince new people of our values. In fact, because Fritz Cola was more expensive, it was perceived as a premium lifestyle product. Moreover, we can learn that it's okay to challenge established structures. Just because something has always been a certain way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. We all have the potential to take something familiar, transform it and make some noise.